What's up guys? For today's video, I'm going to show you how I completely restored this transom mounting plate from looking like this to looking like this. Let's get into it. All right, so a couple weeks ago when I was getting this boat completely tore down for building, I removed the transom outboard mounting plate because it looked a little rough to me. It only took a few minutes, but I'll go ahead and play a quick clip of that so you can see what it looked like before and also what it looked like under it when I first took it off. So I've taken out a couple already, and one thing I'm noticing is that these bolts are barely even screwed on. I don't know if they're loose because the wood has started to rot, so it lost a lot of its tension, or if there's something else going on here, but I'm really curious to see what this looks like once I get it off. All right, taking this off now. Let's see. Okay, not bad. Looks like they didn't have this wood before, so you can see how it started to cause some wear on the transom, which is normal for an outboard to be clamped to it. But either way, it's not bad. We can definitely do some better fasteners here because this is what holds the transom support in place. So we got to make sure that that gets connected in a very secure fashion. So with that removed, I knew I had to clean up not only the wood itself, but the transom behind it. So my plan was to get the wood cleaned up, and then I wanted to seal it in epoxy for some extra protection and then reinstalled back into the boat. All right, now that I went and got this fully cleaned up, it is now ready for epoxy. Some of the things I made sure to do for sure is obviously get a fresh sand on every surface. That will lift off any of the surface oils, any of just the bad wood that wouldn't really be good to trap under the epoxy. After that, I went through with like a little chisel and just kind of rounded out all the holes on the inside. I'm going to be filling all of the holes with epoxy and then drilling new holes just to make sure that they're completely waterproofed as well. It looks like there was two pretty strong divots in each side of the wood here from where the previous outboard was mounted. This is going to get self-leveled with the epoxy, so I wanted to make sure to dig out any rotted wood from in there as well. I dug down until I hit hardwood, and I found hardwood on both sides. So you can hear that there. So we are good to go. I'm going to tape off the backside with a little duct tape. That way, when I fill the epoxy from the top side, it'll seep down, stop with the duct tape, and hopefully make some nice epoxy plugs. Then we'll be able to drill through and get this reinstalled. But that'll also give it time to really seep into the interior part of the wood, just fully waterproofing this. Now for the epoxy, I'm going to be using the Jon Boat brand. I've used this to seal all of the wood in the last 3 or 4 boat builds now, and it works really well. It seals really hard. It has a great waterproofing. It's crystal clear, so it looks really good on the wood. Overall, I've only had great experiences with this, so I don't see any need to change. Okay, so at this point, I have done many videos on how to use epoxy. I'll have them linked in the description and in some cards right now if you guys want to check out some more detailed videos. But essentially, the process is going to be we're going to mix a ratio of the resin to hardener in a container. I'm going to use a scale and a ratio calculator to figure out exactly how much I need. So for now, let's go ahead and start with the first coat, see how it looks, and then we'll check it out in the morning. So like I said, first I'm just going to drizzle this into all the holes and the divots to make sure we have those nice and filled. Like that. Okay. And now I'm just going to gently brush this around so we got even coverage everywhere. There we go. At that point, the entire face has now been completely covered. I'm also going to go around and just make sure all of the edges get it too. That way we can knock out the edges at the same time. Okay, so at that point, there is really not much else to do. I'm gonna let this sit. I'll probably come back in about 10 minutes and rub my brush down the underside just because you're gonna start getting drips. At that point, we just gotta let this dry until tomorrow. So I'm gonna check back with you guys in the morning. All right, well, here's the next day, and I gotta say, it's looking really, really good. Even though it didn't fill some of the holes completely like this one did, we still had a little bit of leaking on the one side. It still sat in the holes long enough to coat the interior. The coating itself looks like it went on really, really good everywhere except for like this far edge. It definitely still got a coating of it, but it was super, super light. So that's why I'm going to be doing another coat either way. I think it's not only going to look great, it's going to function better, and it's going to last a long time. Right. And something I forgot to mention and probably do last time was level the piece of wood. That way I know that when the epoxy gets on top, it's going to evenly distribute around. I think I had this one slightly angled up. I think that's what left me the slightly undercovered part on the reverse side of the board here. So now I just made sure to level this piece of wood. That way, once this is all ready to dry, it's going to smooth out and distribute evenly on the whole top surface. This is going to be my visible side now, which I think is going to look really good once we get all this epoxy on it. So I'm out here checking on it, and I just wanted to show you guys a little trick. If you get any bubbles in it, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a couple bubbles right on the edge here. You can use like a larger propane torch. I just don't have any propane right now, but I have this little mini lighter torch, which basically works the same way. You can use that right on the bubbles and it will pop them, and then the epoxy will just fix itself. But you got to do it early on before it cures. But as you can see, or I don't know if you can see, but the bubbles right on the edge here have been removed. And there's like a bubble like right there. And then that pops it and it goes away. So you can just kind of go on the surface like that, and it will just heat up and out all those bubbles. And that's how you get like a crystal clear surface if you're trying to do that. So it's not really something I focus on much, but since this is going to be an outward facing piece of wood, I thought it'd be cool to not only show you how it looks, but also just touch it up so it looks really good once it's cured. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get this clamped up just using a little quick clamp here. I want the top of the wood flush with the top of the transom. That way the outboard will rest on the wood and the aluminum transom here the way it should. Make sure it's even. And then now I'll clamp here. And now I should be able to drill out all these holes. And then once we get that all drilled out, this will get bolted up and we will be good to go. All right, and just before installation, I'm gonna get all of this corrosion cleaned up around each screw hole. It's not too bad, but if we can get it cleaned up and then repainted, it's gonna be that much better. And by the way, this is my new 2-inch thick wire wheel. This thing has been awesome. I used it to fix the live well hole in the bottom of the boat. This takes off paint and cleans up aluminum so much faster than those super thin ones. I'll have a link in the description if you guys want to check this one out. So before I install this back plate on, I'm gonna hit all of the bare aluminum with just some spray enamel. What this is gonna do is seal the bare aluminum so it's not getting any more water corrosion. That way there'll be a layer of enamel on any of the bare aluminum, and when this gets installed permanently, there'll also be a layer of silicone. All right, so I know this probably looks super messy right now, but you just gotta trust the process. Again, this is just a coating of enamel to cover up any bare aluminum so we don't get any corrosion. I'm gonna give this a little bit of time to dry. Then I'm gonna finish cleaning up the backboard for installation, and then we can get everything tightened up and see how it looks. After a couple of mistakes and replugs and re-drills and everything, we are finally good to get this installed. This piece of wood is now completely water sealed. So now I'm gonna go ahead and just get this mopped up. When I do my final installation for this, I'm gonna be putting silicone around all the holes, but because this is gonna be coming back off for paint, I'm not gonna do that the first time. I'm using the original bolts, but I'm also going to be adding some washers just to make sure it's evenly distributing the weight around the wood itself. All right, guys, well, at this point, it has been completely reinstalled back into the rear transom. As I said earlier, for its final installation, it's gonna get some silicone run around the edges and also around all the bolt holes. That will keep water from getting trapped behind the wood and causing corrosion with the aluminum or any kind of rotting on the wood. It has been fully sealed with epoxy. This is a really, really nice hard shell now. This is gonna hold up really well when we mount the outboard to it. One thing I may do is that I don't have many threads left for these top two bolts here, and I don't like using these kind of nuts in general for the transom. So I think what I may do is grab some slightly longer hardware for pretty much every piece here. I'll just get about 6 more bolts and then 6 more lock nuts, and I'm gonna get some nylon lock nuts and washers for the backside here. That way we're not pinching the aluminum too hard and we have a good even clamping force. At that point, this rear transom is gonna be super, super solid. Thankfully, the wood behind the aluminum plate here is nice and solid, so it's not rotted out. I don't have to do any kind of transom rebuild, but getting a good wear plate on here is gonna make this setup last forever, basically. At this point, this should not have to be replaced as long as we get it secured correctly and waterproofed, which, you know, we're well on our way. At this point, I have the rear transom rebuilt. I've got the live well hole all plugged up. There's not too much I have left to do to get this boat on the water and do our first water test, stability test, and start really mapping out how everything's gonna get done. All right, guys, thanks for watching.